Welcome back to The Perspective. What are the programs that are running at the moment, or that you are planning in the next few months to ensure more engagement on support?
With the campaign Mulai Bicara, we are trying different approaches that probably has never been tried or rarely tried before.
Yep.
We tried with yoga approach because acro yoga to be specific, because initially it was like the idea of involving acro yoga is to help understanding.
I don't think anyone has ever thought of that before.
Yeah, exactly. That's why when we first came up with the idea, we saw that this is a very unique approach on how we translate trust and consent, and also understanding your personal boundaries, which is very relevant to sexual violence issues.
Yeah.
And also tomorrow we're going to be having a travel blogging workshop where we will also insert the key message of safety behavior during traveling, during your commuting activities, and that should be able to apply to everybody, men and women, because it's safety behavior tips.
Prevent any unwanted incidents.
Yes, and we've been talking as well to communities because I think one of the most important issues here is also the lacking of sex education. Now, when we talk about sex education to community, probably a lot of people would be like, you're teaching our kids on sex, but I think
this is the very reason why it was taken out from our curriculum and not allowed for us to have sexual.
But I've been talking to a lot of parents about how to conduct approaches on sex educations to children, because when we're talking about sex education to children, it's not about we're teaching them on how to engage in sexual activities. Sex education to children is about understanding their bodies, understanding boundaries,
anatomy,
the safe and unsafe touch, of course, the underwear rule, and those informations are very essentials for the children to be able to set their own alarm, trust their instincts, and help them to protect themselves. So I believe that there are a lot of people out there are concerns, but probably still having doubts about this concept of sex education to children. But you need to see it as an anti-violence education, so that people understand better about the awareness and the perspective, the right perspective of sexual violence.
One of the preventative measure that we can take, we can adopt. Also, I think most importantly is you said earlier how to teach the boys, the young boys, to respect their opposite sex.
Yes, because that is also what's been lacking. Girls has always been taught
that it's not okay for you to be playing with your treating the opposite sex in a way that you should not be treating yourself.
No, because this is also interesting. In Indonesia, most of girls that you ask or you bump into most likely have had experience of being at least sexually harassed in public transportations, on the road, being whistled at, catcalled, etc. And this has become something that is sort of normalized. Now, there is something wrong when these kinds of harassment are getting normalized, probably, most likely, because if you want to put a lawsuit on it, there's no law that can accommodate you for that. And also, there's no sanction for the perpetrators, for the boys who did it. So then they thought, there's no sanction, so it's a normal thing. It's something that they can do. And I think one of the main important focus is also to start educating our men on these issues, because it could happen to the women in their life, their mothers, their sisters, their daughters, their wives. Sexual violence has no discriminations to whom it can happen to.
And also, what about the parents? What are your views on that? I think parents also need a lot of education on trying to pass on that respect to their kids.
Definitely. Parents can no longer sit and wait and being fed by informations. They also have to proactively looking for that information. I mean, everything is on the tip of your thumbs now. And you educate. Of course, you educate your daughters. That has been the practices all this time. But you also need to educate yourself to be able to educate your son on what
starts
is
at home.
The best behavior. The value starts at home.
Now, let's go back to the Perpu, or in government regulation in lieu of law, on adding the severity of the punishment, and then additional penalty for the sex crime offenders. The government, Minister Kofifah, agrees on giving them chemical castration or chips. These are the measures of which I think the course she will be going. But Komnas Anti Kekerasan Perempuan disagrees with that motion because that might not be the best solution to ending this. What are your views?
This is going to be an endless debate anyway.
Yeah.
So I think everybody should just focus on what is acceptable for everybody, because the longer the debates, nothing gets done.
Yeah.
And what we would like to voice out as well is, I'm sure that when the decisions is made, everybody is gonna have to comply to it anyway. But I think one of the message that we would like to strongly suggest is, please do not forget the victims.
Yeah.
Please include them in your policy.
In your discourse. Yeah.
Yeah. Because they are the one who are usually forgotten.
And they should be the one who benefit from
Exactly. People think that once the perpetrators is punished, then it's done.
Yeah.
They're forgetting about the well-being of the victims that might need to carry on. And simple things, not simple things, treatments like counselings might take a long time for them to recover. They might have to need help to readjust with their lives after the incident, like going back to school, for example, or going back to work. They need help on that as well.
Last issue I'd like to touch on is other support groups. We mentioned earlier, they're very localized, they're very discreet usually. But would you dream of a time where all support groups are connected to one another and very integrated wherever they are, and they may be small, no matter the size, no matter the shape and form. You're not there at the moment because, for reasons you explained earlier. But what are your concern towards that? Are you for integration with other support groups, or do you let them work on their own pace and on their own measures, size, and efforts?
I think local wisdom would play an important part here. Like I said, when dealing with sensitive situations, I mean, it's good to be able to communicate with other support groups so we can learn from each other, because there's always best practices from each of the groups. However, the challenge might be that they can be very discreet. But it doesn't matter what sort of mechanism that they apply, as long as the survivors felt comfort, felt heard and helped, and they understand that they are not alone. So again, the approach that works for survivors in certain areas might not work in other areas.
All right. Wulan, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you
in line.
for having me.
We'd love to talk to you again more in the next couple of months and see where your programs and movements have been. If you'd like to find out more about Lentera Sintas Indonesia, www.sintas.org. You can ask questions, you can contribute any way you can. Join Wulan in this movement. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Florence Armein for The Perspective on Jakarta Group News Channel. See you next time.